I tell you about everything in the world and on the world and above the world and about the world, as well as around the world and through the world and in the world and near the world. I tell you about the winds and the weathers and the oceans and the lands and the continents that have risen and sunk since this little hunk of dirt first whirled off the burning sun. I tell you the men and the women that bathed their eyes in the zigzag lightning and hugged and kissed in the rumbling thunder, and about every Union wheel that ever did run down a Union road or down a Union rail, and every puff of Union smoke that ever did rise up out of a big, high Union smokestack.
There's a better world that's a-comin', tell you why. There's a better world that's a-comin', tell you why. We will feed 'em on the land, on the sea, and in the sky. There's a better world that's a-comin', tell you why. There's
Hello,
a better world
this
that's
is
a-comin', don't you see?
Terminally Online, the podcast. So today, we're here to remind you to subscribe for get the latest updates for the episodes. Now on to Gabe.
Yep. Hey. So today is May 13th, 2020. What have you guys been up to this week? Anything interesting?
I got so much shit to read and so much shit to write for just like one essay, and I don't know. These professors need to be stopped, dude.
Yeah, I have. I don't think my writing is as dense as yours is, as we were discussing earlier, but I
Okay.
have like 20 pages to write over like the next 9 days.
Let's get on with the episode. We feel like enough people have heard about school already, so.
Paul's just shutting us down.
Jesus
Okay,
Christ.
okay,
He was
alright.
asking me a question, dude. I'm going to be honest, like I have nothing fucking else. You want me to tell you my stats on FIFA or some shit? That's really the only other thing that's going on right now, but okay, alright, for sure. So we've been talking about like the left and certain things that we can improve on the left. One of those things is how to get like more, I guess, center right people, or at least even right wing people onto our side. And I think that kind of like the happenings that were going on before the 2016 election kind of culminated in like a phenomenon of like male alienation. You can kind of see how it definitely wasn't the left. It was more like rad libs were alienating a certain section of the population, which was like men who were, for lack of a better word, men who were terminally online, spent a lot of time online,
Ooh.
and we're alienated. And I think that we do have to address this. Like we can't just like leave this to the wayside, because you should fucking take a look at like Trump male voters versus just Dem male voter turnout. Like that was the epoch of like all of that rhetoric just coming together. So I have my opinions. I'm pretty sure the listener has their opinions too. We have like another nuanced ass take on this type of shit, because I think it's at least important to talk about. So Gabe, how do you feel about this?
I mean, first of all, nuanced takes is our specialty. I mean, it's hard when you like to talk about these kind of things, because I think I don't know. The only way to be fair about these things is to have a nuanced take. If you have like an absolutist, idealist take on everything, not only are you going to be wrong about a lot of things, if not most things, but you're also going to get yourself into trouble. Like it seems like the online left kind of has. Like you were saying, how the right is a lot better at this than the left is. Just some like quick numbers. I saw a thread the other day. But like among the popular right-wing YouTubers, you have people like Ben Shapiro, right? You have I think his name's Steven Crowder, right? He does like that Louder with Crowder show.
Yeah.
Just between those two,
Fuck's sake.
I believe they have something in the realm of like 20 million views per week or something like that, or was it week or month or something? It's something along those lines.
Yeah, they're
And if you,
absolutely rocking all the like
it's
major
huge.
Twitter or
It's
major like
huge.
YouTube leftists, like
Yeah,
even just left of center, like major YouTube channels are absolutely fucking rocking them,
it's
and that's a
not even
problem.
close, dude. Like the net, like the I think granted this was just like a thread that I saw. I don't know if they did like the complete research on it and if they were just missing somebody. But I think the most popular, like as far as like view count, engagement per week or per month, I don't remember which time period it was ContraPoints, and she had like 900,000 or something, or a million around that number.
Well, the
Compare her
thing is,
900,000 or million to 20 million.
well,
Like,
like it's a completely different set of audience. It's those like Crowder, Ben Shapiro, all those people are basically like boomers. Like they actually like advertise. Their money is pumping into these people, so it's a lot of astroturf that is set upon those things, and people like ContraPoints and a lot of stuff is what is it? The what is it? The younger crowds and all that stuff. And like and that's another problem. It's like the younger people are not getting properly educated themselves. Like imagine like people were just as worried about the environment and green politics as much as any other politics. Like a lot of things will be probably fixed by now, sort of thing. But like I think it's this lack of worry, basically. A lack of feeling that they will have an effect, nor it will affect them vice versa. Because a lot of people just think, oh, I'm just young, I don't need to. I would just give them money. I don't need to raise a family. I don't need to worry all that stuff. But the like green politics affects them differently, is because they see that as their future being gone, sort of thing. So, like, I think that's a lot of the argument needs to be fixed upon that. Like, we're trying to get, like, show the importance of something and make people understand.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, like just real quick, because that's what we should be addressing. I think it's a lot more nuanced than just like age, because there's a ton of young people that are
yeah, I was
also
gonna
buying
say
into
that
like
doesn't
Ben
make sense to
Shapiro,
me.
and there's way more nuance to it than just like the audiences. And yeah, I understand like the investments that they get and the advertisers that they get. And none of these advertisers are going to advertise on people's shows who their whole entire ethos is bringing down that apparatus. But for sure, it's way more nuanced than that. Or like young men would be like concerned about the well-being of themselves because this is going to impact them. Like their skin color isn't going to matter if the environment is fucked up and their lungs are disintegrating. So it definitely has more nuance than just age and shit. It's definitely who they're either catering to or who they're trying to like either consciously or unconsciously like alienate from the conversation. And I think that this is something that we can address so easily, and we just don't. We just let it kind of fester. So I guess
but you cut out your internet
you
cut out
there.
first.
You cut out there for a second.
really
Yes,
Yep.
the last
like,
second.
for how long?
Like
Just for
The last second?
5 seconds. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say Gabe, go ahead.
Oh,
okay.
I don't know. I guess I agree with you. I don't think it's as simple as demographics. That's just, I mean, again, it's hard for us. It'd be probably smart of us to have like data to back up a lot of these claims. But that doesn't make sense to me at all. These platforms are dominated by younger people, not by older people, I don't think. And so that the premise that you can just say, okay, well, boomers use YouTube more, and thus, and boomers are conservative more, and thus they are, the primary, the majority of YouTube traffic, and therefore that's why these people get the views that they do. No, I don't buy that. I think it's way too simple of a explanation.
And just an aside, if you go into the comments section of the Majority Report, like their channel, a lot of the comments are by boomers themselves.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, that's the thing too. Is like, yeah, majority report with Sam Cedar, Michael Brooks, and I don't remember the girl's name.
They have
help me
a
out here, Brian.
different one each
Oh, do
time.
they?
It seems
Okay.
like so.
I'm
The
thinking
two
like
main heads, it feels like, is Michael Brooks and Sam Cedar. So.
yeah, Jamie something,
Jamie Peck.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's it. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I've part of me wants to say that like their audience is actually more boomer than like a Crowder audience is.
Yeah, a very academic boomer.
Yeah. And
Quarterzip owning like Economist Reader and shit.
Exactly. But I don't know. I guess the key here though is what we should be trying to figure out is what's the difference here? Is like why is Sam Cedar at 40K a video or 40K views or even less, and Michael Brooks the same, and then Crowder or Shapiro or some equivalent right-wing figure on YouTube is pulling in hundreds of thousands of views per video. Like that's what we should be figuring out, right? Like, or I mean, is it just ideas? Like I don't think it's just ideas. Like I don't think people go to like a Shapiro or get roped into Shapiro or
in some bitter way,
Crowder.
I think it's easier to be a reactionary on the internet than to like sit down and actually contemplate certain
there is that other side of the people like the very young people, like the 12 to 17-year-olds who are reactionary online just because awesome. But that's like, but I think a lot of people misunderstand like they're the same people always, but like they grow up. A lot of people are very like what we're saying like radical when they're younger. Usually react sometimes. Usually depending on what place you are, like reactionary. But like a lot of people, they grow out of it, and like so that's why some people seem like they always have like an audience, even though they do horrible stuff, and their audience like make fun of them and all that stuff. It's because like a couple of years they're gotta be gone, and now they have a new audience or another set of 12-year-olds basically, and like that's why they keep on doing what they're doing. That's why they have such low standards that it's like unbearable to understand. But like, so it's a lot. It's same with the demographic sort of thing. It's just where they're advertising to.
So I definitely agree with that. You guys kind of both made the same point there, which is that like being reactionary is like easier, right? Like it's dumber, and so it's like just a lot easier to express, I guess. And I agree with that. And unfortunately, that's where the entry level of discourse is for most people. And that's why in my belief, this is my thesis, is that you have on the left, breadtube, left tube, whatever you want to call it, you have like a lot of academic type videos. We talked about this actually on the last episode, I think, and I think we disagreed on this a little bit, which is that there's a level of importance that is placed by the left on the accuracy and I don't want to say purity testing again, but like that's what it is, or that's how I view it. Like there's a level of importance placed on that, of like reading theory and knowing the theory and being 100% correct about the theory, and then presenting it in a very academic way that just does not exist on the right at all, because they don't fucking care. Like they're reactionary. It's so much easier to be reactionary and just be like, okay, well, brown people bad, or welfare state bad, illegal bad. Like that's so much easier to connect people on, to capitalize on people's feelings of like distrust or like corruption, feelings of corruption, that kind of thing, than it is like with the left's approach of like taking this like long-winded academia centric approach of like, yeah, let me explain this theory to you, and hopefully you're able to understand it, even though it's extremely convoluted and 100 years old. And yeah, no, just listen to this and yeah, you'll understand all of it as soon as you listen to this 50-minute try video. Like, why do you think like the most popular bread tubers are ContraPoints, like Philosophy Tube? Like, these are people that get criticized by a lot of people on the left for not being like, again, I don't want to use fucking what's a better way to put it than like purity testing? Like, that's what it is to me. But why are those people the most popular?
It's
Because
like
they're the most
it
entertaining.
lacks
Well,
it
that's the
lacks
thing.
to them a
Yeah,
perception
like
of academic rigor.
Yeah,
Right.
but like what's the narrow problem we face also is like we confuse, like you don't need to be like the most boring person to teach proper theory. As some of the smartest people I know can like crack a good joke, like very often, and better like sense of humor than a lot of people. Like they get sarcasm. That's one of the main problems. I mean, main things that they have over people. Not a problem they have, but like problem other people have. They can't get sarcasm. But like, what is it? The narrow problem is like sometimes we treat popularity and popularity and entertainment as they know what they know, they know the best sort of thing. What was it? So we always treat things as, popularity tests and all that stuff, which do not end well. And, like, another thing about purity tests is that sometimes, like, there's a reason why something's right or wrong we label something right is wrong for a reason. Like, when we talk about these right-wing YouTubers and stuff and all that stuff, these things are obviously wrong, but we treat them, since people are not coming to it, there must be something like we're doing wrong and all that stuff. Well, like, we can improve, but like one of the main things I think there are a lot of the right-wing YouTubers are using is like a culture industry sort of thing, just pumping out nonsense 24/7, constant work, multiple people behind it, like entire industries funding into it, where it just constantly pumps out, thinks of new methods, goes around to it. But the problem is, in the end of the day, it's not right. Not just like moral standpoint, but like societal understanding. So when a great example is now, but like greater examples could be used from the past or what could be in the future, is when something comes down to it and we need advice from the people, and all of a sudden everyone gets this wrong perception of how society and reality works. All of a sudden we're just the thing we cherish most, democracy, has got to lead to people's downfall sort of thing. Things like democracy, which we try to implement in the United States, was always designed to be that the people are the most educated what they know because they live the day to reality. But if people are just constantly feeding them this manipulated reality, it will just lead to disaster, basically. So that's what I see a lot of the problems with the right-wing internet influencers and all that stuff. But we should just be cautious of, we shouldn't be them. Like, we don't fight fire with fire. You fight.
What do you mean by don't be them? Like, what is the specific issue that
This is
you
what we
have?
talked about last
don't-
time, though, which was like you don't have to engage in debate with these people, and you don't have to like.
You don't have to you don't have
do
to,
that.
You don't have to take them we don't have to take them 100% seriously all the time, because we know that they're pumping up garbage on purpose. They're trying to bait and all that stuff. But like, just usually, sometimes just being the better person can just get people right away. So like, it's just like better just.
I mean, but that's not reflective of reality of what's happening.
Of reality of what's happening. What are you talking about? Like, are you using the
total exposure to? I mean, I'm gonna make it very simple here. I'm gonna say there's a right-wing ideology and there's a left-wing ideology. Okay, I'm making it extremely dumb, extremely simple. The right-wing ideology on YouTube is overlapping the left-wing ideology by like 20 times. That's the reality.
Yeah, but like I said, there is an entire industry, but you're But if we take it like as a popularity contest, that means we're
I
that
mean,
we
give me
should.
a reason why we shouldn't treat it as a popular.
Because
To
if
be
we're gonna
honest, on YouTube, it's the whole ethos is to secure the bag, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so numbers do matter.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I mean. Like, we don't want to be like them. Like, if we just pump constant garbage, how are we better than them when something goes down? If we rely on knowledge of people and all of a sudden it's got just lead to a near disaster, then we will be the blame. The left will be the blame. All that stuff.
I don't want you guys to take this as like I'm just trying to pose some questions here, which is one of them. So
I'm agreeing with you more, to be honest.
What's that?
I think I'm agreeing with you more because if we're going to try to become like get the left to be more like internet friendly and
well, I mean, like
exist on its own, then you're going.
We can,
Paul,
well,
you're going to
Yeah.
you're going to have to contend with having to synthesize this stuff on your own. And yes, I think after talking to Gabe that last time, yeah, you are going to have to like sacrifice some sort of academic value for entertainment.
Well, like, no, I'm not. As I
Especially
said
when the whole
earlier,
ethos
we don't need to act like entertainment is the only value. Well, and we don't have to say like no, and also along with it, we don't have to say that you have to be boring to be educational. Like, just be loved and all, like entertaining and all that stuff. But like, but at the end of the day, it's just gotta, that's the whole point of like, if it won't work, it won't work.
My man, you have to make it public friendly, though.
Of course, we're being public friendly. We're like,
No,
we're not putting like a blank page. We're not
at all.
We're
That's
not
my
doing
point.
making op-eds and like spewing out on Medium or something. We're posting these on YouTube, like the site we're trying to talk about. Like I'm saying we're not gonna purposely put in Drek on purpose. But I'm saying But I'm also saying we need to like be friendly with them. We need to talk to them, actually talk to people, and all that stuff. Because all of a sudden, I know a lot of online YouTubers. I know a lot of online influencers. And I see the same thing over and over again. So I do not want to see it again.
But see, that's the thing. You gotta step out of your own bubble and put yourself into the shoes of like an average.
That's
like,
what I'm doing.
Low information.
But I know like all that stuff. And that's why we need to talk to them and understand them. That's the whole point.
I think.
What do you think the left ideology represents? Do you think it's all academic and purely?
Wait, Paul, this is what I was trying to say though the other day was the Rad Libs at one point, which was pre like 2016 election, was they would make some like they would give like some weird out of this world take on the internet, right? And then people would challenge them, and then they'd be like, "It's not my job to educate you."
What do you think?
Go Google it. But
I know this. Okay, who do you think I'm in this argument? Would I be the one? Hey, I do not need to teach you, or be like, hey, here's the things. This is what this definition means, or here's what. What do you think? What do you think I am?
The only problem was that the other day you're just like, you got to read Bordiga, and it's like, okay, we get it, but what part of Bordiga do we have to read, dude? Like, we get it. Like, that's the point. Is that you have to read that X, Y, and Z.
That was like on a text.
That's the problem.
That was a text argument where this is not. Well, this is like between the three of us. There's a public image that needs to be represented, and when we're getting to that, yes, I will try to say, okay, here's a definition, but I don't even go on Twitter in the first place, so that's the entire thing. But like,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
But I won't
get it.
But what do you think I represent when I say we need to make sure we're academic and we do not go to the common lowest? We do not grab the lowest hanging fruit.
Still got to build a bridge between it.
What do you think I represent when you say we need that's more just throwing out quotes out there? What do you think what I actually represent when it says don't grab the lowest hanging fruit sort of thing? Actually talk to people, and I say actually talk to people.
I think you're and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're insinuating that we are suggesting that you have to compromise on the actual message and the actual ideals.
Yeah, it's the tactics that you compromise on, not the.
Well, I have.
Well, that you need to compromise on.
presentation. That's what I'm. What do you think of this entire thing? Like, being truthful is like a very valuable thing. I'd rather have like, you know, 10,000.
I agree with that.
I'd rather be have 10,000 trustworthy men than a million, you know, dishonest mercenaries. So, like, you know, I'm trying to think of that quote that represents this, but like, you get what I mean. If you just build on like a solid surface, you don't have to worry of it just splitting apart right when you're about to get to something. So,
I mean, you sent us a picture of a bunch of philosophers, and the funniest thing is that each philosopher that you sent us a picture of each have their own idea of human nature, and one of them was Nietzsche, and Nietzsche's was that the base human nature is to be a savage. So those million like mercenaries only doing things to secure the bag and just on their own terms, for Nietzsche, he would say that that's like the most base human nature. That's like where everybody derives things come from.
But
well, like, what do you think?
You're saying that that's not right. That's the thing, is that we're still talking about this stuff.
Well, like, we're talking about like.
Argue that because it already exists. All we have to do is look at how things currently are and how platforms like YouTube operate. Like, it's already obvious that that's what gains the biggest following, is stuff like that. Very, very simple, very inflammatory, reactionary drama, like clickbaity, right? Like, that's the term that's used like within like YouTube and stuff like that.
But
that's what garners attention. So that's what I'm saying, is that you have to take that approach.
Well, what do you think? What do you think it's causing a lot of the problems in today's society in general? Like, do these come out of nowhere, or you think these are caused by human influences upon one another?
Bro, that you just asked me like the most like philosophical question of all time. Like,
well, like, I'm suggesting that like these actions that we do, like you know, clickbaity and savagery, what is it? You think that like just get any better? Like, what is it? You know, when we talk about Nietzsche and like Marx, it's very, what is it? Unique views of how history will move, sort of thing. And what was it? Nietzsche's more philosophy is understanding of the more of an individual standpoint of like, what was it? There is, you know, God is dead in simple terms point of view. Like, there is nothing else. But when we're talking about more of a larger, like, what was it? Representation of society.
Perspective.
More of like historical, dialectical sort of thing. Well, when we get to that large part, well, like, you know, in terms of success, you know, what will be the term, like, advancement of, not society, good or bad sort of thing. Well, when we're dealing with that, it's like, you know, does the basic human needs actually represent, like, something better worth working for sort of thing?
I mean, go back to your original question, which is
what you're proposing is like restructuring things how they currently operate, and you're looking at just three boys right here who are willing to do that, but we're up against like a machine that's already had. Okay, YouTube started in like 2006. That's when it got off the ground, right? In 2026, it's going to be 20 years old, dude. That's a fucking, like, something that's like killing me, because I remember a period before YouTube, which means that I'm going to be fucking boomer pretty soon here. So this thing has been around long enough. It's been around long enough to exist in that sort of sphere where I think that the ball has already rolled, my guy, and you're asking us to like step in front of it to kind of like stop it. It's going to take a lot more than that, though.
What was it? Well, it's like, well, YouTube is just like, even by itself, it's a small percentage of the world's population, sort of thing. Even at, you know, 33 million, but that's, when you think about it, that's like the entire world's population, and that's just like a small percentage of it. That same with Reddit and all that stuff. But one of the main goals of this is like, this is all online. This is all imaginary. That's like, that's what some of the problems people understand. That's a problem that people don't understand this online. Like, when people freak out when, oh, there's gotta be a woman in my board games, like, the better thing to say is just like, dude, this is just a board game, or same with the YouTuber, like, dude, this is just a guy trying, like, just, I'm not 14, I don't care about your PewDiePie problems, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this gets to the greater point of what we were trying to talk about, which was the alienation, which was like the rad libs were not parsing this out, and neither were the reactionaries to it.
Well, like, the like, to actually do better than these is actually try to get out there, try to be like, actually, like, do something in the community, make it, like, do something, like, but like, we can still use the internet to like learn from others, but
So
with this
saying,
communities, but like,
you're now asserting that we should just leave YouTube as it is. Like,
no, we should try not to leave YouTube, but if we want to actually, like, what was it? It's like getting 1 million likes on a Twitter thing. It's like, see, we're the biggest tweet, and we just own Trump.
That's not
Cheeto man, Trump man, bad. But then all of a sudden, boom, he wins the election anyway.
I understand the okay. Now we're talking about two different things here,
well, like,
okay?
like that's just an example of like just how we're valuing things. Of like,
no.
Well,
Okay.
we trying to, if we just do, if you want to talk about like YouTube, all that stuff, like if we're gonna like compromise on so many things, and that just reflects on our character also in our real life, like that won't be that much help. Sort of thing. It's like, you know, it's like Sargon trying to win an election in the UK, which he lost very horribly. So it like, and he represents that right wing ideology. A lot of people, well, he's kind of like hated on like Arab communities, but like same with like, you know, Count Dankula. He couldn't even get in past the primaries.
I understand the point you're trying to make here, but we've also moved on beyond our original topic. Like, what you're trying to say now is like that the online stuff doesn't matter, is basically what you're saying. It's like you're saying online is not reflective of the real world, which I agree with 100%.
Well, it's not reflective, but it can be useful.
Exactly. It's not.
Well, then all of a sudden when we're using like popularity contests to all that stuff, but like, what was it? But like,
yes,
actually,
which was kind of our argument in the beginning, but we were trying to lead somewhere. We were going to lead somewhere with it. Like, the big thing is that those numbers reflect a certain type of attitude and have affixed a certain type of stereotypical like attribute to certain types of leftists, which is something that we want to get away from, because that's how you would attract those types of audiences that would have been attracted to us if the rad libs hadn't muddied up the message. That's what the whole point is. So they were able.
Well, of course I hate
like wasn't Steven Crowder like selling mugs that said like liberal tears on them? We're not liberals, but they think that we are, dude. Like,
well, what do you
on.
think? But what do you think I'm trying to do? Like, also in there, part of my message is that like disaccentuate from that as well. Like, you know, from Contra, from the rad libs, from like even BreadTube itself, because there is so many problems with BreadTube. But if you, for like,
but they're also more popular than any of the people that you
yes, but then all of a sudden, like, as you said, that's really
you can't ignore that. That's my point. You cannot ignore that.
Yeah, but
you
there are
liberals.
These are liberals, and they think they are liberals, and we just continue with this circle sort of thing until like they win. The right wins.
You're just skipping.
This is like corner of the internet type shit, though.
Well,
I'm talking about like the immediacy, like the things that like got like the normal everyday average person that pushed them center right and then like further right because the right was able to capitalize on these types of events, and that's what the problem was, is that you can pull one tweet from somebody and it's some like reactionary, because there is like lib reactionary, like,
well, yeah, of course, like,
which is the rad lib, and then
those are like lol cows of the internet. Like, you just have to like get like a roaster, look for like in their 2014.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, is that the right is able to capitalize on that, and then they're able to indoctrinate other people from that.
Yeah, that's
what I'm talking
the
about.
That's the whole point of like trying to do like purity tests at a certain point.
The thing is that like if you immediately start saying like, dude, read Bordiga, dude, read Gramsci, these people are going to shut down. You have to have the bridge. That's what I was trying to say.
What do you think? But then I try to explain all of this, and you're like, nah, that won't work. There's like What, you got like examples? Nah, I don't want to use examples. What was it? But like, if you,
I don't even,
well, if
I
you
don't even
want,
know what you're referring
What
to.
are you referring to?
well, like when you're saying like, oh, you need to read stuff. Here's examples. But like, when all of a sudden like, hey, we should talk to people, and it's like, nah, that won't work. Like, but like, what do you think it's in academic books? Do you think it's just like orgulous bodies of like Deleuze or something that constantly gets thrown around, or you think it's well, like, well, if you actually read Deleuze, but like it, like a lot of literature can't be applied.
What are you trying to say here, Paul? You're trying to what's the point
I mean,
you're trying
you're
to say?
I'm trying
you're
to say
just
like
throwing names at me right now.
but that's the thing. It's like we don't have to be so reactionary to be throwing around names and all that stuff. Like I can just like copy and paste a paragraph if you want me to.
People are not gonna know what the fuck you're referring to, my guy. Like,
Well, like,
can,
well,
like,
it's because I'm
or you
trying to
can-
reach between the three of us. But like when I go into like actual public discourse, it's a little different.
no. Not only is it a little bit different, it's a lot different.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, it's a lot different. Like
it's
I
a
don't
lot
actually.
different.
And our
I
point
actually
was like we
paragraph.
have to synthesize that information to be able to like stop a rad lib from being a rad
Okay,
lib,
okay,
while also
wait.
addressing the center rights issue, which we can like definitely kernel it down to the thing that is the biggest problem that everybody's like experiencing right now, and that's alienation. That seems to be the biggest, most common, most universal
I'm trying
thing
not to
everybody in the
alienate.
West is going through right now.
Okay,
And it's
so
not
how
just-
about
it's not just
okay?
like with the
I got the
quarantine
perfect
thing.
idea. I just put in Big Chungus, Keanu Reeves, Wholesome 100 between every word of the communist, and that's Capital. You think that'll work?
Unironically, has a higher chance of going viral than something put out.
Okay, that if you, by the way, that's one of the questions. Like, what do you, I want to hear what your suggestion. What is your suggestions of how you get fixed? Like, what you, all that stuff. Like, what do you have planned to not fall in the liberal dreck, but like not like a bread tube?
Oh, I was just telling you that Mark Fisher was doing really good work in reinvigorating leftist ideals for like the modern era, dude.
What do you think, Mark? Like, I do read Mark Fisher. I love Mark Fisher. I suggest Mark Fisher.
You were throwing Bordiga at us, dude.
I suggested. What do you think? Wait, you think I can only suggest like one guy, and it's like, oh, he has slight disagreement?
No, I'm using it as an example, Paul. What I was saying is that you have to like re-up this shit for the modern era. A lot of people's arguments sound like they want to go back to an like a post-industrial era where we don't have the sort of tech that we have right now. This could be useful for the working class and getting things done. It's just in the hands of the capitalists, and then you have to reinvigorate this stuff because it's not just like capital being used to alienate the worker and then them gaining value from the workers' labor power. They're now using capital in itself to make more capital.
But
like,
that's
how do
the
you
thing.
address
It's
that
like,
now?
well,
You
like,
have to
you have-
reinvigorate
you-
this stuff.
Well, like, wait, I have a question. Like, you have like a huge opportunity that many people don't have. Like us, we have nice homes. And, well, you have like semi-nice. Like, we at least have a home, sort of thing, in a country that's not in a civil war, and given educations that many people won't. And I will take that, and I see that, and like between the three of us. And so I will take that opportunity so I can read this and suggest between these types of people. But when I see a working class person who will have, what was it? It's not so much into these, like, theorists and all that stuff. I will try to help people. But I have met also people that surprise me. Working class people that, like, oh yeah, I read this, like, Das Capital. I read this Bordiga guy, and he really interests me. This really, because those situations really matters. Because that's one of the things I also have a problem with. Is that when we're talking about like this bread tube, a lot of these people are like, tending to these college students, basically, to these people who will make like communist movements to student movements, sort of thing. So
Yeah, we want to not address the elitists, but Paul,
but like when I suggest read something,
right wing and center right people, how to bring them over.
Oh, how? Okay, if we're gonna do that, that's the same thing. Actually, talk to me. I talk to many people that I think I changed them, but I of course seen people who do it way better than me, and like they do way more radical methods than I can even imagine. It's like, oh yeah, I suggest them reading this like reading Mao. Now they're all of a sudden like wanting to start a community garden and help other people and all that stuff. And it's like, bruh, I can't even get other people to read. Like, it comes down to like that little stuff and all that stuff. Like, you know,
I mean, so you're gonna go to each individual person in the United States and talk to them.
yes, and then hopefully I can convince them, hey, maybe you should talk to your friends and family about these sort of things, and then we can help each other. Then they can help their friends.
You got a lot of faith in people's agency.
Yeah.
Well,
oh my god.
well, that's what the argument is, trying to make the argument into a better argument into itself. Because what was it? If we're talking about like, what was it? Like we're talking to African Americans, we're talking about Mexicans in the South, Mexicans in super white neighborhoods, and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, these people, what was it? I'm constantly getting abused by our, what was it? Because of my ancestry, because of my race, and all that stuff. What was it? If we understand their like, and a lot of these writers I sometimes mention, like, you know, they answer a lot of these things. Like, what was it? We can mention Black Panther leaders and founders. They write so much stuff on these sort of things that like connect to this theory of international communism and what was it? Okay, even more hardcore stuff than I can imagine. All of a sudden, you got these like big movements that like can affect the entire United States political system.
You're just reciting more theory again, is what?
Yes,
you're doing.
I'm citing more theory because it works. Well, like what was it? When we talk about the Black Panther movie,
what has this theory been around?
What was it? What's the how long?
Yeah.
What was it? If we're talking about the recent stuff, I suggested stuff. Oh, okay, may get out this author that was written stuff as early as 2013 on the same things. It doesn't. We don't need like we don't need to reinvent the wheel, like to understand people to create change. But like, what was it? We can still learn from new stuff. So why suggest those stuff? Because those are the basics. Like, oh, this guy influenced this guy, which influenced this.
Okay, so let's assume that's
the basics to whom?
Yeah, what was it? Well, who do you think affected Mark Fisher?
Let's assume. No. Paul, I'm gonna give you benefit of the doubt here. Okay, let's assume that if you were somehow able to reach every single center right wing person in this country and physically hand them and talk to them about reading a select group of theory that you picked out for them to read. If you were able to do that magically somehow, you think that they would be interested enough to do that, have the time in their life to do that, to have the education level to understand that stuff, and
well,
then to, like I said, even have the interest to digest that stuff? You really
well, like,
think
that's what you think. Like things like Communist Manifesto is to Das Kapital. That is a bite-sized, basically information of like the whole, you know, Marx ideal, and like the same with the real Red Book, and many other people have done that. But like, and all of a sudden, but like we don't.
The only thing I have to say is Capital's fucking 1,000 pages, dude.
Yeah, well, you think the Communist Manifesto is? It's just like a couple pages. Well, it's a pamphlet.
It is a couple pages,
and
but you recommended.
But like, guess because I know you. Why I offer you that? Because I know you're a college-educated person. And what was it? What was it? The whole like.
But Gabe's question was like the center right, like an average center right who's probably in trade, like a trade job, so or owns a small business or something. What do you introduce to them?
Okay, small trade. Yeah, and usually depends on that stuff. It. Like location, because some deal with like imperial theory and all that stuff, but maybe some maybe like if it deals with a minority group. Maybe best with like a Black Panther's information on that. But then if we want to go even earlier, we can like Bobby Seale. Wait, did I say his name?
So
he still writes stuff.
You get that reading to them, and you say, okay, hey, I need you to read it's like in a condensed form, very easy to understand. Like, let's assume that's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
You hand it to them, and you say, okay, hey, like, I know that you have questions about like things like health insurance and like your union and yada yada yada. Just read this, and it's gonna be like, it's gonna change your world. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna laugh in your fucking face, and they're gonna call you communist, or they're gonna call you liberal because they don't know what ideology is, and they're gonna say, okay, whatever, haha, hilarious, and they're gonna walk away from you. That is the average American that you need, that you're trying to reach.
Well, like,
That
when we think of average American, do we, like, what was it? Marx even himself represented that there's, like, people who will not try to learn these changes. What was it? Lumpenthrones, that he's good names. But, well, he put on those, like, prostitutes and, was it, the thief and all that stuff. What was it? But but we don't need to get everyone, sort of thing. We could try, that would be nice, but what was it? The real cause and course is the working class. What was it? But then when we, but like, well, what was it? When you think it's gotta be how I'm gotta get into this conversation? Well, I just say go up to a random person and say read this, and be like, of course. But that's what I mean when we should talk to people. It's like get into the discussion on things like gun ownership. Like, yes, I believe we do need to give guns to a lot of people and all that stuff. And then it's like, okay, yeah, and then it's like, then dash out some theory. That usually works. That usually changes.
But how do you deliver this to them?
What was it? Just like present your own information. If it does, and try to intrigue them into it. That usually works.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's the big important missing part, is that we have to intrigue them into this.
Well,
that's
like
the hard part. That's the original topic that we were discussing, of how bad the left is at getting normal people.
Well, like, what do you think of these people we're talking about, left tube and all that stuff? Those people are like, yes, we need to ban all the guns. We need to make sure that we need to accept all the religions and all that stuff, and just it's like,
well, good. That's a good critique that you can have. That you can say that I would agree with you that the rad libby aspect of the online social media left is like it's very detrimental to the cause. I 100% agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
But that's different. That tackling that issue, which I would say is probably the main issue, is very, very, very different from saying, okay, well, what we need to do is have a bunch of people who are extremely read on theory, like make the theory like condensed and presentable, and then somehow that'll reach people. That's completely different, because that's what you're suggesting. You're saying we need to condense the theory down, make it understandable, and then somehow, the somehow part being the important
well, like,
part.
the somehow, like we said, is entertainment. Like, we can make it all, we can make it pretty. That way, like, we can make it artful. We can actually put that, like, meaning behind art, and, like, what was it? Make stuff under art form to express the feeling of these. Like, you know, there's tons of great artists out there that, like, do this sort of thing, that, like, become popular, and what is it? But I still sometimes even have critique, like, Banksy got, what was it? Famous persons like Banksy, he, like, you know, has all these arts on critiquing society and all stuff, even though sometimes I disagree on some things, but, like, you know, it is an art form sort of thing.
What you just described are the reasons that I believe that people like ContraPoints and Philosophy Tube, or I think are the two big ones, I think, right? Like, is that fair to say? On, like, BreadTube, those are the two big ones?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and H-Bomber and whatever.
That's the reason why they're big, is because they do what you just said that we should be doing.
Well, yeah, but then, like, there's huge critiques on them, and
but that's my, see, you're missing my point here, man. It's like, you have to.
Well, I want to make. Oh, wait. Okay, earlier I wanted to switch it. I want to clear something. I want to clear something earlier. When I talked about religion earlier, it may have sounded like we need like ban religion. I want to just clear for the viewer that I'm not like suggesting we should go against a certain religion. I'm just saying like we can be critical of every religion. and all that stuff. I don't want to sound reactionary with these sort of things. I'm just trying to make an example. Got it? Okay, good. Okay, continue with this discussion. What was it? Well, like, what was it? I'm not suggesting we should become the LARPers of the internet. Like, what was it? Like, we can, like, use aesthetic, but, like, what was it? We don't need to, like, what was it? Do imperial marches every corner of something, every weekend or something. We don't need to pretend that we are the vanguard of using military force or something. But these Rose Twitter are not, I say, well read sort of thing.
That wasn't my point.
What's your point? What do you think?
I'm saying that they have been able to capture an audience that, like, the academic, very well-read theory type guys have not been able to do. And so that's the root of the problem that we're trying to tackle here, is how do you synthesize, as Brandon would put it, how do you synthesize the theory, which I don't disagree is important, and then entertainment for it to be palpable enough to reach a larger audience. That's what we're discussing here.
Well, what was it? We can, of course, discuss on topics and apply these theories, and we can always give a good aesthetic. What was it? Make, like the colors of a video or the way we talk and all that stuff, and what was it? The subject matter can be important. We already went over that, whoops.
I'm not asking you to solve the problem, Paul. I'm just saying, like,
I'm not gonna accept that.
I'm trying to put you on the spot.
But because... like, what was it? If you're suggesting that, well, I want to say some things. Like, I think people, considered like a very leftist person, but I think like Bernie Sanders has done more to the left than a Red Guard of Austin sort of thing.
Okay, well, that's a controversial take within certain leftists by itself.
But that's because he called himself socialist on a national stage, which was radical. Well, what was it? And done more than a lot of these people online have done. He went and became a mayor. He became, the senator, and he ran second place to a national, race and all that stuff. And I can still critique him. Like, there's some things I feel like he doesn't, that we better or just for himself, or maybe just to the leftist cause. But when we are dealing with like these online leftists, these we're trying to speak to an audience sort of thing, and one of the things is like, yes, guns are bad and all that stuff. I don't think they're well read in Marxist theory if they're calling themselves a socialist sort of thing.
Well, I mean,
but then it doesn't present doesn't present the origins of this topic. Like, usually these videos are presented in like, here's the leftist view of this topic, but then they're actually just their view on the topic. But it's not a bad thing if they're bringing their own view, but they're presenting it as actual leftist ideology. So they muddy up the waters, I think, on a lot of topics. And if we present like a lot of these boomers are like, one of the main things are like guns, God, and family. But like, if we present like a better argument on these topics, like, Marx was a very romanticist, so he wasn't polygamous. He was all stuff. He believed that there be no circumstances that the guns of the proletariat should be seized, and And I know plenty of Catholics that have brought in arguments back then to now. I can bring in like some recent arguments, all that stuff, on like Catholicism and all that stuff, and bring it to the stage. And I feel like that's a problem with BreadTube, is that they present their own. What was it? They don't present the actual leftist theory that well. They like muddy it.
Brandon, I've been talking too much. Do you want
to? I mean, I don't know. This is a more corner of the internet type like arguments. I think the meat and potatoes that I wanted to address was like, how do you get to like people of center right or like even right wing that would have been swayed by like leftist arguments? And I mean, our examples were just like the YouTube people, like how they were able to capitalize it. But it doesn't have to be like through that route. It never has to be through that route. It's just that the rad libs have their own sector of the internet, and the right wing has theirs, which is like YouTube. And anytime a leftist tries to go on YouTube, they get squashed, because the point of YouTube is essentially securing the bag with like advertisers and shit. And so that's the whole motive for YouTube. Twitter, it's a lot harder, but Instagram's also like that too, getting like sponsorships and shit, and having enough followers to like become a brand ambassador or some shit. So I mean, the whole entire thing with like being internet famous is being able to get paid to just tweet like inane bullshit while also having like advertisers kind of sprinkled in there. So what my thing was is that the rad libs muddied up the message pre 2016, right? So we had like at least 5 or 6 years of just this like Gamergate bullshit going on, which is done and dusted. Yeah, it's done and dusted, and we don't need to bring up or like scrape at like old scabs and shit, but the rhetoric that was flying around like was completely rad lib and completely reactionary, and that was from both sides too. Like one side was completely that's how Sargon got his fucking career.
Yeah, and that's how like things like 4chan got his image as well. It's like and the left did not capitalize on it because either the left was not interested, because let's be honest, this is corner of the internet bullshit, but it did encapsulate a good majority. Like big channels were talking about it because it was like meaty drama.
Well,
like it had a lot of.
It might have been corner of the internet stuff back then, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And we see we see the echoes of that sort of like a way of parsing out arguments amongst each other, like happening today, and a lot of it alienated a lot of like young men too, like a lot of the rhetoric and stuff, and that rhetoric still happens too on like Twitter and stuff. And you take it now with a grain of salt. Like you don't care. Like me personally, I don't care if I see somebody like saying like men are like this or men are like that. It's like whatever. I don't really care. Like it doesn't really matter.
Label them as basic, dude. I see people like this is gonna be a dude's rock moment for me, but I see like women on Twitter saying like, "Oh man, fuck all men," or "Men are trash, men are pig." I'm like, well, you're basic, man. Like that's just like, I don't know if they're doing it ironically or if it's like a joke, or I think it's like partially a meme, but I think some people do it unironically, and I'm just well,
there's also not going to be much pushback against them. Like we went through the era of like pushback, and both sides came out cringy. Like that whole entire era of like, oh, women do this, men do that. Like it's just it's cringy.
If you let a tweet escape the drafts that says something along the lines that women are trash or men are trash because of X, you're basic. All right, let's just get that straight. You're basic, man. Like there's no way around it. You're boring and you're basic.
That battle though did bring a lot of people over to his side that was essentially being completely reactionary and completely aggressive about it. And I think that's what I was trying to get at, was that whole entire era, like those 5 or 6 years where like the right was building up and taking from them, and then Milo got his career out of it. Fucking Gavin McInnes turned into one of those types. Like these people who used to just exist on TV, like shitty TV, like Fox News and stuff, were even creating YouTube channels to get in on the grift, and they succeeded in some ways. And it has everything to do with like Radlib Ibhole. and just like the rattle is becoming louder and louder, and getting in on that type of grift, and it's muddied the message to a large extent, because if you operate off of class being the major definer, like that type of shit doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like the big issue is that video game companies and video game, and like not even just like video game review sites, like just review sites in general fucking suck. Pitchfork fucking blows, dude. Like there's like I love music so much, and I just fucking hate Pitchfork. I can't stand like reviewers of some type unless they're like funny or entertaining or keep my attention. And I will admit, like I like Angry Joe show, but he was a part of that like debate too. Like he was getting in on that too, and he was saying some pretty like alienating stuff about men as well. And I like his stuff because his stuff is funny, but at the same point, I'm not going to champion him. And a lot of people were championing people. Like they were giving like certain websites were giving like Sargon the type of day, and like allowing him to like boost his image. And then on the other side, you had the girls that were involved getting like talks and stuff at like certain like symposiums or whatever.
Yeah, they're like.
And it was a bad, like a completely bad era that just completely fucked up like the rhetoric and the visage of like what leftism is and what leftism stands for, because that became a whole entire arching like all people of the left are libs and they're all like this like liberal tier bullshit, which none of the leftists were crying, none of the leftists were even moved by any of this stuff because it wasn't with realm. And even people who are now calling themselves leftists, like, I'll call her out, like, shoe on head. We're part of this fucking grift, too. Like, it completely fucked people's, like, ideals up and their ethos and a trajectory they probably would have followed for, like, almost 6 or 7 years after the fact, dude. It's fucking crazy. And that's what the problem was, is that perfect opportunity to kind of, like, get rhetoric out there and get, like, yeah, these review sites, these fucking like these fucking game companies or whatever, media companies and shit, always feed these people information. Review sites feed the companies information, completely incestuous. Problem of like capitalism, but nope, it's man bad, woman bad, and that's all it really amounted to.
All right. We're way off topic at this point. We're talking.
Well,
about
like I think we can.
And video game review sites.
Well, we can bring in this argument.
No,
it's
just an example.
Yeah,
like, this is how like the center right got muddied and the ideology got muddied and the rhetoric got muddied, was because rad libs took the place of what like leftists like were seen as.
They filled the void for that time period that you're talking about, and they were really. I mean, just like that. The rad libby agenda is not cohesive with like America in general, in my opinion. Like in the way that they use their rhetoric, like it's just like most people are gonna write you off as like a radical or just annoying or abrasive, whatever term that you want to use. So yeah, they unfortunately represented that space for us during that time, and as a result, the damage is done. Like I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
But that being said, like you do have to have a plan going forward and acknowledge that if you do want to fix what is broken, that you cannot continue to do the same exact thing that like what people have done to get us to this point. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this. I think this can go great with getting center right to even right wing people into like the left, and that's the thing. It's like we try to break this dichotomy, or like all that stuff. Like we see that this feeds into itself. Like it's like the controlled opposition, basically. Like of course I'm gonna talk about this guy or this woman really easily because she's pretty dumb. And so she'd be great for views, but all of a sudden, like, hey, I don't like that guy, so I'm gonna go to this, to their opposition, and then they gotta get bigger, then use each other examples, and they get bigger and bigger, and that's usually how, like, the worst of a group, or like a group that doesn't really do its best in their section, get big. That's usually sometimes how it usually works. That's like works with like the news and online. It's just like a smaller scale of this. And like one of the things we can get right wing to center right people is like I see a lot of the leftists I know really hardcore leftists were from this debacle, were in Gamergate, like the front lines where they were in 4chan, and rarely I actually see them were actually from Tumblr. But how they got from 4chan right-wing reactionary to hardcore leftist is like seeing this dichotomy. They see the bigger picture of this, and what was it? A lot of just want to see this end, sort of thing, and that's how people get convinced of these different radical views. Is like, I just want this suffering to end, sort of thing. This is why usually crises are one of the most ultimate times for change, sort of thing. It's just they want this to end. And that's how we can use these. I've seen people say, like, hey, the news industry sucks. This guy is stupid. Why trust any of them, sort of thing. And, like, may explain how this is represented as a dichotomy. And then, like, oh, where do you get this? It's like, oh, I read theory. You want... and all that stuff. And that's how it usually works for me. But this argument is dependent on each person. That's why it's really important to talk to people and all that stuff. It's like, and that's how we get rid of this alienation. Like, take care of these, men and women that were cast aside, basically. And usually the fodder of this dichotomy and all that stuff. And what was it? Usually bring them up and make, like, not just feel better, but, like, get better under, and not just, like, what was it? Can repeat words in a book, but, like, they get it. It's like, how do you describe a thing where it's like pure bliss because it's over? It's not, well, I'm trying to think of that word where people say, like, right before they die, they feel like they did everything right and, like, they're ready.
It's like ecstasy.
It's sort of like that, but more of the end, sort of thing. It's like,
yeah, because I mean, okay, so
they're content with themselves.
We can even make an example that, like, if the incel thing, like, began before this, like, that, like, shit, like, on the internet, like, that explosion of just, like, anti-male, anti-woman rhetoric, then it completely fomented at, like, a malignant pace because of it. Like, it completely just added to that discourse, a very toxic discourse.
Yes.
And I think that one thing is that, because that's also, like, in some, like, bitter way that we might have to contend with, is a form of alienation, like a societal alienation, not like a work alienation, but like a societal alienation, like a feeling that you're not good for anything and you're not wanted by anybody. And that's something that also kind of comes out of a very, very, like, toxic kind of, like, rhetoric that I think that we can at least try to not make so alienating and take a chance on, like, redemption with these people, because I think the left is like a million times better at redemption than the right will ever be, because for them it's like you can never redeem yourself after, like, certain actions, which there are some actions that
I don't know, man. I'm not sure if I 100% agree with you on that. I think
there are some actions that most certainly, like, are irredeemable, but we'll have to, like, still, like, look to, like, philosophy.
You're talking about, like,
this.
you're talking about, like, getting canceled and uncanceled. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So, like, okay, so we should really be wrapping up here because I think this is going long. But the one point I want to make on that is that I think it's way, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. This is my perception. I think it's way harder to get canceled by the right than it is to get canceled by the left. I think the left will cancel you over, like, and it, like, the term cancel is like a bullshit term too, right? Like, there's only been, like, actually history of
shit though, dude.
Yeah,
that's a little Radlib move.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was trying to advocate for. We tried to disassociate from this big monstrosity that has been building up, sort of thing, that, like, radical libs building up in what they call the leftist movement, but, like, actuality, Radlib circle jerk sort of thing.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I don't know. Maybe we have different perspective on what constitutes the left, but like I feel like a lot of the people that we need to be our allies are very much share some of the rhetoric that radlibs do. Like I don't know, like the what distinguishes like a leftist from like a radlib to you? Like what is the main tenet that differentiates those two groups?
Like a rat.
Fucking nuance, probably.
Yeah, a lot of
Like
nuance.
being able to parse out something and not completely having an overactive, like, reactionary reaction to it.
Yeah, it's like one of the examples is like, they say they're like communists or all that stuff, but they only hate like cops, and they say the only thing they'll ever say is they hate cops and landlords, but they don't know like anything else what to do. It's like, oh, we'll just do communes. It's like, how we gotta get to communes? It's
You guys are still on that. That's funny.
yeah.
I know exactly what you're referring to because we covered it in one of the other episodes. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's a fucking bad take, dude.
I don't know anything of that situation, but I think it's funny that you guys are still bringing it up.
It's an unbelievably bad take, and they should be castigated for it.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. So you think like I don't know. We'll leave that for another topic. That's like a whole nother thing. We should probably really get wrapping up here. Paul, did you wanted to line up a foreign intervention or American imperialism interview for this week, or do you want to do that another time?
I think we should go to next week because we like if we well, let's see, we'll have like a monthly episodes we'll build up, and we're all but we also do the interviews for next week and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably have more time too as well. So
Yeah.
I won't next week, but I'll try to do my best to do some kind of research.
I mean,
But-
honestly, nah, because like next week I'll also have in 2 weeks I have like more shit due. So
I mean, maybe that's
it's
something we can just save
in
for
context.
the summer. We can just save it to the summer, maybe. I mean, that's such a huge, broad subject. For us
That
to
was what
tackle.
I was originally wanting to
Oof.
do.
Like that's a huge one. But anyways, yeah. Okay, all right. You guys have anything else to say? Wrap up? Any final words?
Nah, dude, I just feel like we didn't even really talk
I think
about
I-
the subject you're gonna talk
Well, I
about.
think we went over pretty well with this episode because, like, I think some of these topics we talked about in this episode, we've been skirting around it with the previous episodes, but I feel like this episode brought them to more of a light sort of thing. So I think this was a needed episode sort of thing.
I think we talked a lot about the problems, but we didn't come up with any solutions. So,
Well, it's just like just continue looking at it, and one day, people will get fully understand it, and a whole bunch of people will understand it. But
hopefully sooner than later.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
Of the opinion it's still going to take time. I think Gabe thinks it's going to take a century. I think it's going to take like 30 years, and Paul thinks it's right around the corner. That's probably where we're all differing.
I don't know. It's like I mean, the fucking fact of the matter, none of us know concretely, right? We're just through our own perspective of the world and human nature and society at large. Like we're each kind of that's what we're basing our opinions off of. But yeah, I don't know. Like it seems like Paul has a lot of faith in interpersonal communication and like being able to reach people, and I have basically zero. And I think that like the American ideology is just this like unstoppable hegemonic force that like you kind of just have to reason with and try to reason with. And I think Brandon, you fall somewhere in between those two takes. So
yeah, depending on what time of day it is and how fucking angry or sad or depressed I am.
You've sent me a couple messages that if you ever anger me, I'll expose you in our messages regarding a couple different ideological takes. But
My only problem is like when you have your very lib days. So I don't plan on upsetting you except to call out your lib days, but the days when you're more prone to rad liberty than not. But I have those days sometimes
I'm
too.
absolutely not a rad lib.
I have those
I don't
days
know.
too, man. I have those days and those takes too.
Okay.
man, so.
I think we
Anyways,
should
yeah.
wrap it up. Yeah.
We should wrap it up.
Okay. But I won't be surprised if we get our first dislike or something on this episode or something.
I welcome it. I'm waiting. I welcome
we would
it.
have got it on the ML one if we had
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like this was nuanced enough. It was mostly bullying you, Paul. So, anyways, take it away.
Okay, that'll be it for today's episode. Have a nice day, and go read theory.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Bye.
No action, just theory.
I'm a union man in a union war. It's a union world I'm fighting for. There's a better world that's a coming, don't you know? There's a better world that's a coming. There's a better world that's a coming. There's a better world that's a coming. I'll tell you why. Don't you see, and don't you know, no. Hey, there's a better world that's a coming. I'll tell you why. There's a better world that's a coming. Don't you why? There's a better world that's coming, tell you why. Better world that's coming, tell you why. Out of marching, out of battling, you can hear the chains are rattling. There's a better world that's coming, I'll tell you why. Now there's a better world that's coming, and there's a better world that's coming, and there's a better world that's coming, I'll tell you why. There's a better world that's coming, and don't you see. Better world is coming, I'll tell you, see. Better world is coming, and don't you see? Well, there's a better world that's coming, I'll tell you why. Better world is coming, I'll tell you why. We'll beat 'em on the land, in the sea, and in the sky. There's a better world that's coming, I'll tell you why. Well, there's a better world that's coming, don't you see? Better world that's coming, don't you see? When we'll all be union and we'll all be free, there's a better world a coming, don't you see? There's a better world a coming, don't you see? Better world a coming, don't you see? When we'll all be union and we'll all be free, there's a better world that's a coming, don't you see?